morning, everyone, and welcome to Our Chicago. I'm Stacy Baca. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women. It takes more lives than all forms of cancer combined. But the American Heart Association reports there is a decline in awareness among many women of this key piece of information. February is American Heart Month, 28 days to raise awareness, educate women about the symptoms, and really encourage them to advocate for themselves. So joining me to talk about heart health and Go Red for Women events is Dr. Mercedes Carnathan, Professor and Vice Chair of Preventative Medicine at Northwestern's Feinberg School of Medicine. She is also the President-elect of the American Heart Association Chicago chapter. And Dr. Heather Baker, Principal of Dorothy Simon Elementary School in Winnebago, and also a survivor of sudden cardiac arrest. So doctors, I want to welcome both of you this morning. Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Carnathan, let's go ahead and talk about symptoms right out of the gate here, because men and women are so different, and sometimes we have this thought, or this Hollywood version, if you will, of getting a heart attack, and you see people clutching their heart. But when women go through a heart attack, they're experiencing some sort of trauma there. What are the symptoms that we all need to be aware of?
Thank you so much for bringing that up. You know, when we think about a heart attack, we picture the gentleman, the middle-aged or older gentleman, clutching his chest and falling to the ground. But for a number of women, that's not the primary symptom that they experience. And there can be a suite of symptoms, including stomach pain and distress, pain radiating down the arm, and just a general feeling of feeling bad, maybe a tightness in the chest, shortness of breath, that we can often attribute to other symptoms. And we don't always think about heart disease as the cause of that, or a heart attack. And this is something that we're really actively working to change by getting word out about heart attacks among women.
And when is the right time to step in? Because everything you're describing, women have experienced. You know, you don't feel great, you have that stomach ache, or you just don't feel good. But at what point do you say, stop, do something about it immediately?
You know, I think it's really important that we all pay attention to our bodies, and it's subtle changes that can happen. You know, if you don't feel the way you think you should, and if you're aware of all of these symptoms and you're seeing one or more than one of those symptoms, it's time to act immediately. You know, we talk a lot about heart attacks, but you know, there are also strokes, you know, which is another common vascular, so a similar origin but leading to the brain. Other common side effects, and you know, the dizziness, slurred speech, all of those factors that are uncommon or unexpected require immediate attention, because when we act immediately, we have an opportunity to save lives.
Dr. Baker, I want to bring you in right now, too, because what you experienced at such a young age, when I was reading about you, and you had cardiac arrest at the age of 28, and you thought everything was fine leading up to that moment. So take us to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I woke up on February 1st, 2018, a normal, average, healthy, active 28-year-old. I felt completely fine, drove to work about 40 minutes away. I work at a school, walked in, was talking to colleagues, and immediately started feeling dizzy. But before I had time to even say anything, my heart stopped and I collapsed dead to the ground of sudden cardiac arrest.
And talk about that, too, because I find it interesting that we're using different language here, but they are different. A heart attack versus cardiac arrest. Dr. Baker, I've heard you explain this before. Please tell us.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I think this is a really important difference to point out. So sudden cardiac arrest is an electrical malfunctioning in the heart. It can happen to anybody at any time of any age, whereas a heart attack is more of a plumbing issue of the heart. So again, it happens to people of different ages and health, but with sudden cardiac arrest, time is definitely of the essence because the heart has stopped beating, and that victim needs CPR AED immediately in order to survive.
And Dr. Carnathan, let's talk about age here. Dr. Baker being 28 years old, younger women need to pay close attention to this.
You know, they absolutely do. And, you know, Dr. Baker, I really appreciate your clear description of the distinction between the two. You know, when we often think about this, even sudden cardiac arrest, we think about that happening in middle-aged and older adults, but it can happen to anybody. And it can happen even in the absence of obvious risk factors. As you mentioned, you were a healthy 28-year-old when this happened, probably physically active. I assume you ate a wonderful diet, but sometimes one's genetics put them at risk for scary things happening, such as sudden cardiac arrest. I think digging deep into our personal family histories to kind of ask questions, what happened to this relative or that relative where there was an unexpected death? That can signal a family predisposition or risk for these sort of events happening.
We'll go ahead and get into Dr. Baker's story on the other side of this break, because what happened in her case, it was amazing. Some wonderful people around her. So we'll be back with more of our discussion of women's heart health after a short break.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.